Hi, it's Nicole, and I've got a fun birthday themed layout on my channel today. If you're new, welcome. If you've been around, buckle in. We're going to do one of my favorite things today, which is to kind of marry or merge card making supplies into scrapbooking and kind of stretch the budget a little bit. So today I am playing with the Bougie birthday release from Spellbinders. When I was planning out my layout, which for the video, I kept my clips in order so that you guys could see the order that I put everything together. I didn't start with my typical paper selection, photo placement, that kind of thing. I started just playing with this, the cake die set. I had the name of it up on the screen. I'm not going to butcher how to pronounce that. It's ganache something. This one I think is my favorite of the Bougie birthday stuff, and maybe the word dies. These little like macaron cookies were so fun to build. In fact, when I was playing around with stuff, I actually ended up making a bunch more, and I turned them into a card, which I'm still kind of debating if I want to go ahead and edit. I filmed it, so I don't know if I want to edit it. I'm not really like a card maker. So let me know if you guys want me to kind of sprinkle in card making videos when I do them. And I totally will, because this stuff is just too fun and too cute to kind of keep it to myself. I want to share all of it. So this was the jumping off point for my layout. As soon as I saw the cake dies, I remembered for my daughter's 4th birthday, she, for whatever reason, had gotten it into her head that she wanted a homemade, what she referred to as a fancy cake, which I kind of figured after I talked to her that she meant like a layered cake or like a stacked cake. And I am by no means a baker, so many days later, I was able to kind of give her something that matched up with her vision. These are the birthday cheers, word dies, and then I've got some of the classy numbers to make the word 4th. And this is what I'm going to kind of put on top of the cake to kind of mimic the cake topper that I had made for her cake, and just kind of play into that and then serve the purpose of the title of my layout. And instead of doing white cardstock for the base layers, I actually used the same purple that I used on the cake and the cookies. I thought that this would just be a fun kind of pop of color that you could see from like the side. So it just kind of peeks out a little bit and just plays into the color theme. When I use dies and quote-unquote card making materials in my scrapbook layouts, I like to find ways to make them kind of, I know I'm going to explain this really bad. When you have manufactured scrapbook products like paper and stickers and die cuts, and then you go and take colored cardstock and like make your own embellishments, sometimes they can look like they don't go together. So I really just try to find ways to help those two materials kind of blend and meet in the middle a little bit better. So I will make sure that I'll do something like I'll include a specialty paper, where in this case I've got some gold, and that I can kind of include in the die cutting. I can include it in the paper stuff. It's also part of her cake, so it was a coordinating element or coordinating color to be able to use. So that's what I kind of start thinking about when I know I'm going to be playing with like dies and kind of making my own stuff. Now, my birthday supplies are kind of dwindling. I think I don't buy birthday collections because I don't enjoy scrapbooking birthdays. I'm just going to put it out there. I've talked about this before. I don't necessarily know the rhyme or reason, but I'm trying to get better at it. But this Simple Stories birthday 6x8 pad that you can see on the side is one of my like top tier favorite collections that they came out with, and I did not buy the whole collection, and I'm kind of kicking myself. So every time I pull it out, I try to use, you know, a little bit more of it. So I've got the teal is from their like Snap Basics, and then I'm gonna cut one of the 6x8 papers into some, these are about 3/4 of an inch, they might be 1-inch strips. Because they're only the 8 inches tall, I'm gonna lay everything out where I think I want it to figure out where I can hide the seam. So like this one, I'm gonna make sure that the seam is more towards the top where these two pieces meet, and it's gonna hide behind that photo of the cake. And then I'm gonna do the opposite on this side and have the seam meet behind the cake, and you'll never know that it's there. It's gonna look like a 1 by 12 inch piece of paper. So little tip there. And then I'm gonna bring in more, like I was talking about earlier, I'm gonna bring in more of that gold paper. When I was cutting the cake, I used, it was a tonic 6x6 that I'm almost completely out of. And I had ordered the gold assorted treasured cardstock from Spellbinders, and it actually arrived during the week that I was working on this, which I was very thankful for. So I cut out little strips from the, what am I trying to say? It's 8.5 by 11 paper. So again, I'm running into the issue of it not being that full 12 inches. So I'm just going to hide my seams in the same places. And then I thought it would be fun. I rarely mat my photos with like colored cardstock, but again, this goes to how can I blend these two kind of product types even more. So I thought it would be fun to go ahead and mat my photos. I think I was riding that high of having a new pack of uncut specialty paper. So I had enough from the sheet that I was already cutting from to go ahead and mat all of my photos. The super skinny strips, I just kind of eyeball those. Even when they're kind of meeting each other, they're not necessarily the exact same width because I'm eyeballing it. But again, it's getting, where they meet is being hidden behind some photos, so you'll never notice if they're just a hair off. But I like the like delineation that a skinny strip brings to the edge of multiple patterns coming together. That's a personal preference, personal choice type of thing. Bringing in a specialty paper and just kind of having it like pop off the background while also matching all of the other elements just helps my brain marry these like pre-manufactured elements with these like homemade elements that I have made. Kind of goes with my homemade cake type thing. So once I figured out my photo placement, now I'm going to make sure that I've got room for all of this stuff that I die cut, mostly making sure I've got the space for the little like cake banner thing. I did end up changing things a little bit here and there. I need to make sure that I've got room for my journaling. And then this is when I start thinking, okay, I put all this work into this cake. This cake is kind of like the shining star of the layout, but I need to revisit this merging of the pre-manufactured stuff and the homemade stuff. So all I have for this birthday collection are these die cuts. So I went through, dumped them out, and what I love about this set is there are gold elements in this set too. So like everything just kind of works together. So I just picked a couple different pieces that were like sweet type themes and make, you know, some little clusters here and there. I'm going to include some of the cookies up on top of my cake with the little cookies that I made. And that's just, like I said, that's just going to kind of help everything sort of blend together and look like everything belongs together. This is the Hero Arts Sentiment Strip die. I've mentioned this many, many times. I have a tutorial on this. I would go ahead and say if you go look at this tutorial and you go to download the PDFs that I created, I highly recommend using the sheet version and not the Word version. over the time that I've shared it, it's just kind of gotten a little used and abused, and I think the original file is no longer the file that I made, but the sheet one works. Now, this is the Treat Yourself gift card holder. I didn't use the gift card holder part, but I kept going back to all of these little confetti and banner pieces. If you guys have watched my channel for a while, you guys know I love a good stacked tiny heart, tiny star situation. So this was right up my alley. This is going to also be another method to kind of bridge these two materials. So I'm making my own embellishments, but instead of using cardstock, I'm using the pattern papers from that Simple Stories collection. So I'm taking the pre-made stuff, kind of doing some homemade stuff, and it's gonna blend together and it's gonna be great. I did a single layer of a white cardstock and then topped it either with the like B-side pattern papers that I picked and some scraps of that gold cardstock, and I just went ham. I cut way too many, which is totally fine. I just go ahead and store the extras with the dies when I put them away so that next time I use them, I have a bunch like ready to go. I cut a ton of these. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in a lot of this like open area on the layout. Before I do that, I still have not attached anything other than those papers to this layout, because this is one of those ones that I really have to make sure that I've got my spacing right before I start putting things down. I don't normally pop up my photos, but in this instance, I matted them with that gold cardstock, and it's such a good cardstock. It's really thick, so it curved a tiny bit because I was using such big pieces of it. So putting little foam squares behind it really helped flatten it out. It also helped the photos kind of have more, obviously they're going to have more dimension, but they're going to have like a stronger presence on the layout, if that makes any sense. I've got a lot of interest going on, a lot of layers, a lot of stacked elements. So bringing the photos forward really just kind of helps them, again, blend and merge with all of the stuff that's going on. I went ahead and as I'm placing my journaling, I am tucking some of those banners behind, because once the journaling's on, I can't tuck them behind. And I've talked about this before with like scene building and stuff. With my personal preference and the way that I like to do things is to have a lot of this type of element touching other elements. It just kind of helps everything feel cohesive. Everything feels like it belongs together. And I'm almost turning this teal cardstock into like a confetti style pattern paper, almost like a textured pattern paper. So I'm gonna work my way from bottom to top, tucking things here and there. I'm not putting the photos down if I'm gonna have the little banners behind it. So I put anything behind, anything that's gonna go in the back, I put that down first. And then kind of work my way up or forward, whichever way you want to think about that. And I just keep going, keep filling in. I get a lot of people that ask me about scene building, and I mentioned it I did a Halloween class. I mean, I just picked a Halloween collection because it was fun, but the class kind of ended up being more of a scene building type thing. And my suggestion is always add more. People will send me photos of their layouts saying that, they tried to make a scene, or they tried to include card making stuff and it feels empty, or it feels like it's missing something. And my solution is to just keep going. Keep die cutting stuff, keep adding stuff, keep filling in. And I promise it's not going to look crowded. It's not going to look chaotic. Like here you can see I have a small amount of banners, and it's okay. But when you look at the final images of my layout and you see how much I actually added and filled in, the overall look looks more dynamic, it's more interesting, it's more playful, it's more balanced with like the theme, but there's probably 40 or 50 little pieces of confetti. So my suggestion, if you're ever in a situation like this or you're trying to scrap lift this or something, just keep adding. You could do this with sequins, enamel dots, tiny die cuts, tiny stickers. You can go ham. You can do all kinds of stuff with so many different themes. I like to just show my personal preference, my personal style, and sort of how to stretch those card making supplies when, the release comes out. It's so cute. You want to grab it and you feel like you need to justify it. So my justification is to include it in layouts. And I think that it ends up being not only just a fun process of creating the layout, but then at the end, you have all these fun elements that get to live in your album, and you had the fun of making it. So here you can see I'm just going to keep filling in. I actually ended up cutting a lot of the footage just because I kept adding and it takes forever, and I didn't want you guys to have to sit through that. And I did go ahead and finish my cake topper. So here you can see all of the different stuff that I added. Overall, I still think that this is somewhat of a simple layout with like the photo arrangements and stuff, but there's so much interest, so much texture. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you find some inspiration in kind of merging some of your supplies together, and hopefully YouTube will recommend something interesting for you guys here. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love for you to join me, and I will catch you guys later.